Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Michelle Saeed, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're absolutely thrilled to have Colleen Delvecchio, the founder and principal of Maxady, joining us. Colleen brings decades of expertise in leadership development and team performance coaching to empower organizations and leaders to unlock their potential, with her people-centric approach and thought leadership on trust and collaboration being the primary premises. She's transforming workplace cultures across industries. We're going to explore her inspiring journey, how Maxady is driving leadership excellence, and her vision for scaling this impactful firm. So let's dive in. Colleen, welcome to Founders Future.
Thanks, Michelle. So excited to be here today.
Absolutely thrilled to have you on the show. So let's kick things off for the listeners. Take us back to the beginning. What specific problems, specifically in the leadership development or the team performance landscape, inspired you to actually start your company?
The biggest thing that kept coming up over and over again, either at every place I worked or everyone I talked to, were managers who kept getting promoted because they were really good at their job. You found someone who was your best marketing person. They were so good at marketing, and now you promote them to the VP of marketing, and now they're not doing marketing anymore. Because what are they doing? They're managing people. And these folks were really struggling, and their teams were struggling working for them. There's that saying that people don't quit jobs, people quit managers. And it's so true. And so we really came into the space thinking, here's a place where we need to get out there and help managers and leaders be really successful and learn the skills they need to be a good manager, a great manager, and a great leader of people.
Love that. Yeah. Such an important topic, and not enough emphasis on that now in a lot of organizations, startups, corporations. So really focusing on that development side when it comes to growth and like really creating good environments, right? So that talent can thrive and talent does retain. And so I'm excited to dive into the core offerings. Tell us a bit about what is your core offer? How do you generate revenue with your business, and how do you structure it for your clients? Do you have specific ICP as well that you work with, if you could share with the listeners?
Sure. Our most popular and probably our core offering is a series called The Confident Manager, because we realized if we could give people confidence in all of these skills that they needed to be a manager, they would be a great leader for their teams. And this is a offering that it's 6 weeks long, or 6 sessions. So sometimes 6 weeks, sometimes 12 weeks. We'll sometimes do every other week. But the real exciting part about it is everybody gets a mentor or a coach as part of it. And with some organizations, this mentor or coach will be within their company. So I'll work with companies to identify who are the great leaders within the company to match them. But even better are the companies that are willing and trust their employees, where we find the mentors and coaches who are outside of their organizations. So some of them might be the coaches who work at Maxady, but others might be someone who works at a competitor that they can actually get on a call with and say, this is what I'm facing. Are you facing the same thing? And have those conversations. And folks who go through this training say it changes their whole approach. I just did this with a local bank, and all of their employees got matched with somebody who worked in a similar role at a different bank. And they said, what great sharing, what great information they were able to get that they never would have gotten if that same mentor was within their company.
I actually love that idea. It's something I've never heard of before, is really like focusing on how can we actually create like a mutual exchange ecosystem between other companies or competitors, as you said it, in the same niche and vertical, and learning from them on like what's working, what's not working. I've gone through this experience before, right? Because a lot of these commonalities are very much prevalent, or common themes are prevalent, right, in the same sort of organizations. Now, in terms of like the actual program, so it's a six sessions or every other week. Is this like a group style cohort type of format? Is it one-on-one coaching? How is really all of your work packaged in that sense?
Sure. The Confident Manager is a group format. We usually go between 10 and 20 people. Sometimes we'll do it on site at a company. Many companies love to have in-person trainings again, which is phenomenal, because I do think people get more of it when we're in the same room. But we do it virtually. We do it individually for companies, and then we do a cohort 3 times a year that is just a mixed group. So anybody, so often we'll get folks maybe who work at a small nonprofit that they would never be able to bring us in to do a whole training, but they can send one person to our training. And then we do the coaching. After that class, the next class is called the Confident Executive. And this is for our C-suite level folks. And those are typically one-on-one. It's one-on-one coaching with our folks who do C-suite executive level coaching. We use Gallup Clifton Strengths as our base. So we use the Gallup Clifton Strengths assessment and get people to get that mentality of strengths-based leadership. How do you lead from a place of that makes sense for you? And how do you lead is going to be different than how I lead.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Love that. Yeah. So really a little bit of a variety when it comes to really your offerings, having something for everyone essentially. And like you said, the nonprofits that may not be able to partake necessarily on that one-on-one side, but they still get an opportunity to get some of that education and really still participate, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Love that. Now, building on your growth, walk us through how you're acquiring clients right now. What are some of those channels, whether it is like paid ads, social media, organic, word of mouth referrals? Like, what's been the best for you in terms of generating leads through the door?
Sure. I took a class through Tuck Business School recently, and they made us really get into our numbers and to really go back and do some of that work on the business. And one of the assignments was to really look at where do your clients come from. Like 6 months ago, I'd be like, oh, I guess they come from this. Now I know, right? So we found 73% of our clients come from referrals. They're either someone who knows somebody on my team or they've talked to somebody else and they've said, you got to go talk to the folks at Maxady, right? They're the ones who can do this for you. Like 73%. We've had 2% of our clients come from either finding us on our website or just finding us through LinkedIn or just some sort of random out there piece. And the other 20-ish% have come from myself, or I have two other folks on my team, and we do keynote speeches. And so when we've done a keynote, we get people our way. So we really have found at this point, we have not really done a lot of work or haven't, not that we haven't done a lot of work. So we haven't gotten a lot of work from our social media or kind of the marketing or advertising. And that's something we're starting to look at this year as we are growing the business.
Love that. So looking at really building more of that predictability right, when it comes to lead gen, I actually really want to get your thoughts on this because like we've interviewed guests on here where referrals, oftentimes they're like the most powerful leads that come in, right? The warmest, the hottest, not the most consistent way to build that pipeline in place. What happens if referrals dry up? How are you like navigating that as a founder? What's kind of been your experience? Tell us a little bit about, I know you mentioned paid ads, what that next step looks like for you to build the engine.
Sure. Yeah. So we've been doing this 6 years and it hasn't dried up yet. And as you said, right, often these are our best clients are the ones who get referred. But now we have to get out there and tell our story, right?
Yeah.
People don't know who we are. So we are starting to do things like some paid ads on LinkedIn, some paid ads on social media. Interestingly for me, after talking to someone about a year ago, they tried to get me to get on TikTok because I do keynotes. I'm very comfortable in front of a camera. I love being on that way. And very quickly, our TikTok has grown. I think today we're at 11,000 followers, right?
Wow.
Which is just makes me chuckle because I feel like TikTok is not my thing, but it's something that we are starting to grow quickly and starting to see people reach out and saying, we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to hear how you do this more. And so I do think as we look into the second half of this year, we are looking at LinkedIn being our main source because that's where the business people are.
Right.
I think TikTok has been interesting to me because it's a strange place in my mind of where a company like us would be.
Yeah.
But it's putting us in the place of people who are scrolling through TikTok. They see us, they know us, and there's something about those videos that gets people to feel like they actually know you. And
Yeah.
so that kind of connection is growing. So, like I said, we are moving into the idea of LinkedIn ads this year and doing
Yeah.
some of that. We also tend to go to a lot of conferences,
Mhm.
be out and about at conferences, get booths at conferences, talk to the people who are doing this work. I'm a firm believer in talking to people and connecting with them and that whole networking piece, but
Yeah.
really making those connections, particularly when it comes to things like leadership training. No one's going
Yeah.
to trust me to come in and train their leaders if they haven't talked to me and seen what I am, who I am, how I do this.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, just like forging that face-to-face connection, really formulating those relationships at the end of the day. creating awareness about who you are, what your organization serves. Absolutely love that in that sense. I want to learn about your sales process. Like, what does that look, right now is, Colleen doing the sales call, having those conversations. How does all of that look like within your organization? Or do you have a team in place helping with biz development? Would love for you to share with the listeners more on that.
Sure. We have a small team. There's two of us that are full-time employees and then another nine who are part-time folks. And we do, there's some folks who do a little bit of everything. So at this point, we don't have any one person who's dedicated to business development. There's two of us who take the calls. It's myself and one other of the trainers who I feel like really understand our program and will take those calls. This year, one of our goals is to really get that sales process down because it's been probably a little too fluid and a little too, I don't know, not consistent through the years. So it has definitely been a point. We use things like Kit to send email sequences. We have a bunch of different email sequences that we send folks and love
Yeah.
being able to set those up and really need to. This year, the goal is to really dial that in and to have a good sales process that everybody's doing mostly the same way.
Yeah, 100%. And what's kind of like your navigation through that in terms of like kind of refining that? What are some of the ideas? I would love for you to share with the listeners on how you're solving that, exploring different ways to create that framework. Let's say if you do bring in someone kind of help and expand on the sales side, what's your thought process there?
Yeah, and I think some of it is to put that sales funnel in place, right? To think about where are the opening steps. We've converted a lot of people from who've done our online class to then bring us into their company to do in person, and we know that works. So it's just thinking about how do we do more of what works now that we've piloted and tried all of these different things over the last 6 years. Right now, because we know what works, we just have to put it into practice. And as I mentioned, we use Gallup Clifton Strengths, and my top strength is one called Maximizer. I'm the person who likes to take things that are good and make them better. My bottom strength is consistency.
Yeah.
And so I am never going to be good at being like, this is our sales funnel and this is how we do it the same way every time. And we're growing to the point that we need to start getting those processes in place. And as the founder, I recognize and I know I need to start putting that into place a little bit better.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's such a great thing to mention, especially like with some of the listeners tuning in. A lot of them are other founders who they're wearing all the hats. They sometimes feel like, hey, I can expert weave my way through all of these different components in a business. Finding the right experts, finding ideas, and finding ways to compartmentalize and systemize things would allow you to get that time back. So appreciate
Right.
you sharing that. Now, your growth's been incredible from what it sounds like. What are your top priorities over the next 6 to 12 months? Like, what does that runway look like for you? Do you have like revenue targets, performance milestones you're looking to hit? Paint that picture for us as you're looking at scaling your vision going into the latter half of 2025.
Sure. Yeah, we have some sales targets. They're actually not dollars at this moment. They're much more about clients,
Yeah.
about wanting to bring on 6 more really new, bigger long-term clients. And bigger, not the size of the company, but much more of the companies that say, we want to go all in on this, right? We've had 5 or 6 companies that we've worked with for 6 years now. I want more of them. I want 6 more clients who are excited every month to be talking to us and that we go in and constantly are doing this, that they see this as part of their fabric of their company. So we're looking at that. And then my goal is by January of next year that we do hire that business development person, that we do have a full-time person who's really dedicated to that. Because like you said, as a founder, I can't do all of this.
Yeah.
Right. I knew in the beginning I couldn't be the one to do my website and update that. So that was the first thing I outsourced. And then we did the finances and the accounting. And every year I'm outsourcing one more thing, and
Yeah.
business development is the next one.
Yeah, 100%. When did you realize that? When was like that aha moment for you? Because like sometimes we have blind spots as founders, especially when growing and scaling companies. When did you realize, hey, like we need to evolve and kind of get to that next step to grow more imminently?
Yeah, I think it was as I started growing and needing more staff, but I didn't need full-time staff. I was needing a bunch of part-time people and
Yeah.
then realized I don't want a bunch of part-time people. I want full-time people on my team. And the only way to have them is to have that more consistent selling.
Yeah.
That's that's the pin, right? Because if nobody's selling and no one's doing business development, then there's
Yeah.
not the money to pay the people. So over this past year, when I did take that class through Tuck Business School, which was phenomenally helpful to really make me stop and look at all my numbers, I
Yeah.
started to be able to play with those numbers to say, okay, here's where I need to be, here's where I want to be. And instantly, as I looked at them, it was like, okay, this is the next hire. The hire has to be a business development person.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I think one of the best things is like when you can really nail that front end, which is like having consistency and having that influx and then having someone who can actually like convert at such a level to where you can then focus on operationally on the business and not on like, hey, making sure that every lead that comes in, it doesn't feel like it's like a scarce opportunity, right? Because of the process there. Now, I want to learn a little bit about your thought process when it comes to really the leadership development coaching industry evolving. How are you positioning, your company for that type of future? How are you staying up to trend in that sense amongst like being in a competitive vertical? What's your thought there?
Yeah, AI is changing everything. I don't care about your industry, and it's changing the training industry immensely. A lot of folks are saying, "Oh, we don't need trainers anymore. We can go ask AI, right? I can go ask ChatGPT any question; it'll give me an answer."
Right.
And what we've really done is double down on that piece of we're going to find you mentors, we're going to find you coaches, we're going to keep the people aspect involved because there's no book, there's no on demand training that you're going to watch a video that you're actually going to learn how to be a great leader. Being a great leader is about leading people. And so you need people involved in this. You need to
Yeah.
be able to have those conversations with people. And so, where many companies have been really diving into the AI. We're using AI, but they're
Yeah.
diving into the AI for delivering the training. We're doing the opposite. We're saying, you know what? We need a lot more. We need the people piece
Mm.
because this is what's most important. So I think that's making us stand out and be a little bit different than a lot of the other training opportunities out there. Ever since COVID, people don't want to sit on Zoom
Yeah.
for 12 hours of training. I don't want
Right.
to sit on Zoom for 12 hours of training. So I don't want to put that out there in the world. I want to
Yeah.
put out training that I would want to attend. I want training that teaches people actual skill. One of my favorite classes that we teach is how do you run a meeting? Because no
Oh,
one ever teaches you how to run a meeting.
yeah,
Right.
100%. So overlooked too. And like I think that's the one thing leaders struggle with the most is and it's not really part of that onboarding when they get to that next step. But
Right.
like I want to hear a little bit more about kind of what you've done there on that sense.
Yeah. So we talk about everything from how do you write an agenda? When does your team need an agenda? When does your team need to meet because they need to connect? If you have a fully remote team, sometimes your meetings are really about how do we all connect and make sure we know each other well.
Yeah.
And sometimes your meetings are about delivering information so you can see people's faces when they hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
other times, how do you set those things up and get that information?
Yeah.
It's things like how do you delegate during a meeting? How do you
Yeah.
make sure that if I tell Michelle I need her to do this, that she actually remembers it? This
Uh,
is where I also think AI comes in really handy. One of the things we do is we show people 6 different versions of AI notes. We'll have 6 different AI note takers show up at a meeting and send them 6 and say, look through these. Which is the best one for your company? Right. So we help people to think about what makes sense.
Where have you seen like the best? Because you mentioned that, I'm like curious, like across all of the data that you've pooled, like which note taker has been like the best in terms of like really the notes, the format, the organization from like a leadership perspective?
It's varied from company to company and what they need.
Yeah.
I find for the work that I do, I actually love the Zoom integrated AI.
Yeah.
That's absolutely my favorite. I feel like it gives some really great information. It tells you exactly the to-do list at the top and it really summarizes things and combines things well.
Yeah.
I've worked with teams where they just want some really short or quicker notes. And then I like the Calendly. They have an AI tool that's involved. And then, there's hundreds of them these days
Yeah.
that I tend to go back and forth, right? New ones come out all the time. I just started using Plod, which is this little, for people who are watching this on video, right? It's a little AI
Cool.
recorder tool that you can actually connects to the back of your phone. And so
Right.
when I'm doing in-person meetings, I just used this in a crowded restaurant recently, hit the record button, and it came back with the whole list of all of the to-dos from our meeting, which was phenomenal, which meant we didn't have to sit there and take notes while we were eating lunch and
Yeah.
talking about the business. So,
Yeah. That's really cool. Lightning round question, as we
sure.
wrap What's like the best piece of advice you would give to some of the listeners out there that are founders, entrepreneurs, future leaders, about really growing their own business within the leadership development landscape, helping another startup do so? What would you say?
Yeah, one, start really quickly knowing that you're going to outsource things. Know that you can't do it all, because as soon as I outsourced my website, it was a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
And it also gave me back all that time. It takes me an hour to update 3 words on my website, where my website person automatically goes in once a month and changes things. So really figuring out what you can outsource and be clear on what you love to do. I love to do the stand-up training. So yes, I have other trainers on my team, but I'm going to make sure that every week I get to do that, because I
Yeah.
want to do the stuff that I love.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't love doing my website. I don't love doing my books. I don't love sending invoices. So that's
Yeah.
why I pay someone else to do that.
Yeah. And also having the experts to being a CEO of your own business. Love that. On that note, that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Colleen, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your journey and insight. I know you're going to do some incredible work as you look at building systems, getting more people in place in your team, and doing the things that you love, as you mentioned. We're excited to follow the journey along. If you would like to get in touch with Colleen and learn a little bit more about what she's doing over at Maxady, we'll link her LinkedIn profile in the summary below, and you can also visit her at her website. We'll link that as well. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find some more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses scale through trained appointment setters and world-class marketing and sales systems. Until then, everyone, keep climbing, and we'll see you all on the next one.